What would you do if the entire world decided you were a bad mother? Not because you abused your child, not because you abandoned them, but because of how you chose to make a living. Margo's Got Money Troubles isn't just another family drama. It's a story about survival, second chances, and the impossible choices people make when life leaves them with no easy answers. As the second half of the season begins, Margo believes she's finally found a way to support herself and her son. For the first time in months, things seem to be moving in the right direction. But what she doesn't realize is that every step forward is about to come with an even bigger obstacle. And by the end of this story, everything she loves, including her own child, will be hanging by a thread. Welcome back. Today we're diving into the second half of Margo's Got Money Troubles, episodes 4 through 8. These episodes completely change the direction of the story, turning what began as a quirky dramedy into an emotional battle about family, identity, and what it really means to be a good parent. Let's get started. Margo is still trying to balance motherhood with making ends meet. Her OnlyFans account has started bringing in some money, but some isn't enough when you're raising a baby alone. Bills continue piling up, diapers aren't getting any cheaper, and every day feels like another fight just to stay afloat. Instead of giving up, Margo starts thinking bigger. If she wants to survive, she can't simply upload content anymore. She has to build a brand. That decision introduces one of the most interesting ideas in the series. For Margo, this isn't just about selling photos. She's a writer at heart. She wants to tell stories. Instead of copying everyone else, she begins imagining an online character that mixes humor, fantasy, and performance into something uniquely hers. It's a risky move, but creativity has always been her greatest strength. Meanwhile, her roommate Susie becomes one of her biggest supporters. Unlike everyone else who constantly judges Margo's choices, Susie simply asks one question: how can I help? That unconditional support becomes one of the emotional foundations of the series. While Margo is building her online identity, another relationship slowly begins to heal. Her father Jinx is trying harder than ever to become part of her life. After years of absence, he wants to prove that he's no longer the selfish man who walked away. But rebuilding trust isn't easy. Every conversation between father and daughter carries years of guilt, disappointment, and unspoken pain. Still, for baby Bodhi, Jinx becomes something unexpected: a grandfather, and perhaps for the first time in decades, a responsible adult. Or at least he's trying. Then Margo makes a decision that changes everything. She reaches out to experienced creators whose content she admires, hoping they'll collaborate with her. At first, it seems like a terrible idea. She's ignored, mocked, even laughed at. Most people would have stopped there. But Margo has already learned something important. When life knocks you down, you either quit or you keep pushing until someone finally opens the door. Eventually, that persistence pays off. She earns a chance to prove herself, not because she's the most experienced, but because she has something many creators don't: original ideas. It's one of the first moments where Margo starts believing she might actually succeed, not just survive, but build something. Back at home, though, another storm is brewing. Jinx accidentally discovers what Margo has really been doing online. His reaction isn't what she hoped for. Like many parents, he immediately jumps to judgment. He worries people will exploit her. He worries she'll regret her choices. Most of all, he worries because he failed to protect her once before. Margo doesn't back down. She reminds him that it's easy to judge someone else's decisions when you've never had to face their reality. She's not chasing fame. She's chasing rent money. She's trying to feed her son. The argument becomes one of the series' strongest moments because neither person is entirely wrong. Jinx speaks from fear. Margo speaks from necessity. And somewhere between those two emotions lies one of the show's biggest questions. How far would you go to give your child a better life? As if the emotional tension wasn't enough, the story shifts to Las Vegas. Margo joins her mother Cheyenne for her wedding. On the surface, it should be a celebration, a fresh start, a chance for everyone to leave the past behind. Instead, the trip exposes cracks that have been hiding beneath the surface all season. Cheyenne is trying desperately to reinvent herself. She's determined to become the perfect wife, the perfect churchwoman, the perfect version of herself. But pretending to be someone you're not is exhausting. The longer the wedding celebrations continue, the more obvious it becomes that she's forcing herself into a life that doesn't completely fit. During one emotional conversation, Margo finally tells her mother the truth about how she's earning money. The reaction is immediate. Cheyenne isn't angry because she hates her daughter. She's terrified. She sees Margo walking down the same difficult road she once traveled. To her, this isn't empowerment. It's history repeating itself. But Margo sees something completely different. She isn't ashamed. She's surviving.
and for the first time she refuses to apologize for it. Their painful confrontation leaves both women questioning everything they believe about love, sacrifice, and what makes someone worthy of respect. But while Margo and her mother struggle to understand each other, a much bigger threat is quietly taking shape. Someone from Margo's past, someone who ignored Bodhi from the very beginning, is about to return. And this time, he isn't coming back because he suddenly wants to be a father. He's coming back to fight. And what happens next changes everything. Because the next chapter isn't just about Margo's career anymore. It's about whether she'll be allowed to keep her own son.
Just when Margo finally believes she's gaining control over her life, everything starts falling apart again. Sometimes success doesn't solve your problems. Sometimes it creates even bigger ones. Margo's new online identity begins attracting attention. The creative ideas she once worried no one would understand suddenly start connecting with people. Instead of simply posting content, she leans into storytelling, building an imaginative persona that feels playful, quirky, and completely different from the creators around her. For the first time since becoming a mother, Margo isn't just surviving. She's creating. She's writing again. She's performing. She's building something that belongs entirely to her. It's exactly what she always wanted, just in a way she never expected. And that's one of the show's smartest ideas. Rather than portraying her work as purely transactional, the series explores how creativity can survive even in the most unexpected places. Margo isn't abandoning her dreams, she's adapting them. But every success comes with a price. The more attention she receives online, the harder it becomes to separate her internet persona from her real life. What once felt anonymous slowly becomes public. Complete strangers begin recognizing her. Some admire her, others objectify her. Many judge her without knowing anything about her life. The internet has given Margo financial freedom, but it has also taken away her privacy. And once something goes viral, there's no putting it back in the box. The timing couldn't be worse. Her relationship with her mother is already hanging by a thread. Cheyenne has spent years trying to escape the mistakes of her past. Now she's desperately building a picture-perfect new life. A respectable marriage, a respectable community, a respectable future. From her perspective, Margo's choices threaten everything she's worked so hard to rebuild. What makes their conflict so compelling is that neither woman sees herself as the villain. Cheyenne believes she's protecting her daughter. Margo believes she's protecting her son. Both are acting out of love, but love doesn't always sound gentle. Sometimes it sounds like judgment. Meanwhile, Jinx continues trying to rebuild his relationship with Margo. His journey may be quieter than everyone else's, but it's no less heartbreaking. He's finally beginning to understand what he missed all those years. Simple moments, holding Bodhi, sharing meals, being present. Things most parents take for granted now feel like precious second chances. Nick Offerman brings so much vulnerability to these moments that Jinx slowly transforms from comic relief into one of the emotional anchors of the series. You want to believe he's changing. You want to believe he's finally becoming the father Margo deserved. But the show never lets us forget one painful truth. Recovery isn't a straight line. It's a constant battle, and some battles never truly end. As Margo's confidence grows, another chapter of her life unexpectedly comes crashing back. Mark, the man who once wanted nothing to do with Bodhi, the father who walked away before his son was even born, now suddenly wants to be involved. On paper, that sounds like a good thing. Every child deserves two loving parents. But the timing raises obvious questions. Why now? Why after months of silence? Has he genuinely changed? Or is something else motivating him? The series never gives easy answers. Instead, it asks viewers to wrestle with uncomfortable questions about responsibility, guilt, and second chances. Mark insists he's thinking about Bodhi's future. Margo sees something entirely different. She sees someone trying to reclaim control over a life he willingly abandoned. Their conflict quickly becomes more than a disagreement between two parents. It becomes a clash between two completely different ideas of morality. Mark believes Margo's profession makes her unfit. Margo believes actions matter more than appearances. One parent disappeared, the other stayed. Which one deserves to be called responsible? The answer seems obvious, until lawyers get involved. As the legal pressure begins mounting, Margo discovers that winning online doesn't necessarily mean winning in real life. Every photo, every video, every public opinion, every personal decision can now be used against her. Her job becomes evidence. Her family becomes evidence. Even the people she loves most become part of the investigation into whether she's a good mother. It's one of the show's most powerful commentaries. Society often claims it judges people by how they treat their children. But in reality, people frequently judge parents by how closely they fit traditional expectations, especially mothers. The emotional weight starts affecting everyone. Susie worries about Margo.
Cheyenne struggles between supporting her daughter and protecting her own fragile new life. Jinx quietly carries the guilt of knowing his mistakes could hurt Margo all over again. Every member of this unconventional family is fighting a different battle, yet they all want the same thing: to protect Bodhi. Then, just when it seems like the family might finally pull together, everything changes. One devastating mistake threatens to undo every bit of progress they've made. A mistake no amount of love can immediately fix. A mistake that gives Mark exactly what he's been waiting for. And suddenly, the custody battle stops being a possibility. It becomes a very real threat.
But just when it seems like Margo has survived the worst, everything completely falls apart. Her secret identity as Hungry Ghost is finally exposed. The videos that once helped her pay rent are now everywhere. Friends, strangers, and even her own family discover her OnlyFans account. Within hours, social media explodes. People who once ignored Margo suddenly have opinions about her life. Some mock her, some shame her, others treat her like she's no longer a human being. Even her childhood friend Becca confronts her, accusing her of ruining her future. Heartbroken, Margo realizes something painful. The people judging her don't care why she did it. They only care that she did. Meanwhile, Mark finally decides he wants to be part of Bodhi's life, but not because he suddenly became a loving father. He files for full custody. His argument? Margo works on OnlyFans. She lives with a recovering addict, and according to him, she's an unfit mother. The custody battle officially begins. Lace, Margo's lawyer, warns everyone that this isn't just about parenting anymore. It's about image. One mistake could cost Margo everything. During mediation, Mark's lawyer attacks every part of her life: her financial struggles, her childhood, her father Jinx, her work. Then comes the cruelest question of all. Mark asks, "What happens when Bodhi grows up and his classmates discover your videos?" The room goes silent. For the first time, even Margo has no answer. Outside the courtroom, things get even worse. Mark's mother insults Cheyenne, calling Margo exactly like her mother. That single sentence pushes Cheyenne over the edge. She punches Elizabeth so hard, she breaks her jaw. Now the custody case has become even more complicated. But the biggest disaster hasn't happened yet. Back at home, Susie notices something strange. Jinx has locked himself inside the bathroom. Minutes pass. No answer. Margo forces the door open and freezes. Jinx is lying unconscious in the bathtub. A syringe is still in his arm. He has overdosed. Panic takes over. Margo slips trying to pull him out and nearly drowns herself. Susie immediately begins CPR while Margo races to grab naloxone. Every second feels like forever. Finally, Jinx starts breathing again. He survives. But the damage is done. Everyone now knows he secretly relapsed. And because he was living in Margo's house, this could destroy her custody case. Lace gives Margo heartbreaking advice. If she wants any chance of keeping Bodhi, Jinx has to leave. For Margo, it's an impossible choice. The father who finally came back into her life must now walk away again. Jinx quietly agrees to enter rehab. But before anyone can recover from that emotional goodbye, another nightmare arrives. Child Protective Services suddenly shows up at Margo's door. Someone has reported that Bodhi is living in danger. The officers begin searching every room. They inspect the house, question Susie, ask about OnlyFans, and then they request drug tests from everyone inside the home. As Margo watches strangers examine every part of her life, she realizes something terrifying. This isn't just a custody battle anymore. She could lose Bodhi forever. The final episode begins with one simple truth. Margo has no room left for mistakes. Lace tells everyone to stay calm. Cheyenne apologizes to Elizabeth. Jinx promises to stay sober and keep his distance from Bodhi. Margo even passes her psychological evaluation, proving she's mentally fit to raise her son. It looks like things are finally turning in her favor. But Mark refuses to back down. During the second mediation meeting, he calls Margo immoral and insists that Bodhi should never be raised by someone like her. After everything she's been through, Margo finally snaps. She lunges across the table and attacks Mark. The mediation immediately collapses. Now only a judge can decide Bodhi's future. In court, every mistake from both families is laid bare. The judge doesn't spare anyone. He criticizes Mark for abandoning his child. He calls out Jinx for his addiction. He reminds Cheyenne that violence only made things worse. And then he turns to Margo. She doesn't deny working on OnlyFans. Instead, she proudly explains that she works hard every day to provide for her son. Her job may be controversial, but loving her child never was. Then comes the moment that changes everything. The judge asks everyone to hold baby Bodhi. Bodhi smiles in Margo's arms. He laughs with Jinx. For the first time, he even feels safe with Cheyenne. But when Mark holds his own son, Bodhi immediately starts crying. It's obvious. Mark isn't a father. He's a stranger. The judge finally delivers his decision. Margo keeps full custody of Bodhi. Mark is granted visitation rights 2 weekends each month, giving him a chance to become part of his son's life. The nightmare is finally over, or so Margo thinks. As everyone celebrates, another shocking truth comes out. Mark admits he never called Child Protective Services. The real caller was Kenny. He claims he only wanted to protect the family, but his betrayal leaves Cheyenne speechless and raises serious questions about the future of their marriage. In the final moments, Margo makes one last decision. She stops apologizing for who she is. Instead of hiding her work, she fully embraces it. She transforms an empty room into a creative studio and continues building her hungry ghost character. For the first time, she's no longer chasing society's approval. She's choosing herself. And more importantly, she's choosing the future she wants for Bodhi. Margo's Got Money Troubles isn't really about money. It's about survival. It's about motherhood. And it's about refusing to let other people decide your worth. Despite every mistake, every judgment, and every setback, Margo proves that being a good mother isn't about having a perfect life. It's about never giving up on your child. And that's exactly why this emotional first season ends with hope instead of defeat.